Thank you, Emily. It's very nice to have you here with us at our podcast for Federation Focus. This is Emily Cowan with me from my sister's house, which is also part of Fifth Street Ministries, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
Great.
you for having me.
Well, we are delighted to have you here to talk about what we have to talk about. Not delighted about the topic, but it's a very important one that needs to be discussed. And it's kind of a follow-up to what we talked about last month, which was we talked about human trafficking. So that was our last podcast. But today's Federation Focus, we're going to talk about domestic violence and its impact on both citizens and communities. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about what domestic violence actually is?
So domestic violence is the pattern of behavior used in a relationship to gain or maintain control over an intimate partner. This can include physical violence, emotional and verbal abuse, sexual violence, sexual abuse, financial control, manipulation, things in that matter.
That's a lot of different ways that the abuse can occur. And I imagine you might not even realize that it's happening if you're in that situation, possibly. So can you give us some signs to look for?
As I mentioned, the control and manipulation, that may look like financial control, not allowing the party or partner to keep a job or control their own money. They may have a budget or a specific allowance that they can live off of. Isolation, removing them from any connection within the community, if that's friends or family, not allowing the individual to have those contacts as far as a support system.
That's awful. I mean, I just can't imagine being in that situation. As I listen to you, I'm thinking how fortunate I am to have such a giving partner, and he is just wonderful. But to be in that situation with some of the things that you mentioned, I mean, and it isn't just physical.
Absolutely. That a lot of the victims that we work with, physical abuse may be the very last type of abuse, but it starts out, it could be emotional, it could be the name calling, putting the individual down, making them feel worthless, self-value is, non-existent, that type of thing.
Thank you for that information. That's some powerful information. Now, what about statistics here in Iredell County? Do we have a significant problem with domestic violence?
So in Iredell County, we work closely with law enforcement agencies as well as other community partners. We run a 24-hour crisis line, and each year we receive in excess to 1,000 calls each year. Those individuals may be seeking safe shelter. They may just be looking for other resources or assistance that's available. As far as our shelter services, we probably assist, on average, 200 individuals each year.
And when you say assist the individuals, what types of things do you do for them?
So we do provide safe shelter to victims that are fleeing a domestic violence situation. We have a case manager that works with them to come up with a case plan to become self-sufficient. That looks different for each individual. We work to provide them with health care services if they haven't seen a doctor. Myself and Misty, our other advocate, we work with individuals through the court system. If they are looking to file a protective order, if they have criminal-related charges, we can, go to court with them just to be there as an emotional support and that type of thing.
Okay, so you started touching on some of the solutions. What are some of the other sources of help that might be available?
We work strongly with community agencies. We are a part of the Domestic Violence Task Force here in Iredell County. Within that, we work with over 60 different community agencies. Iredell Christian Mission, Yokefella, agencies such as that, Department of Social Services, just as a resource to individuals who have left their home, have left everything they know, and are basically starting over.
Right. And so many of these victims, and I want to use the word is victims the proper word? Because I know you're a victim advocate.
Yes, I would oftentimes. They're a victim and they're working through the process to become a survivor.
Right.
And that looks different as far as a timeline for each individual.
Okay. So I guess where I was going with that is that a victim doesn't have to be a female either, even for intimate partner
Correct.
violence. It's not always a female.
Correct. The services that we provide and the assistance we offer is for male or female victims.
Is there a predominance of one over the other?
We do primarily serve more female victims.
Now, this is a specific question that just popped into my head, but when you're talking about, is My Sister's House a female-only facility, or can males stay there, or do they stay at 5th Street? Or
So My Sister's House would only house female victims, female women and children victims. But as far as male victims that we do assist, if they are in need of shelter, that looks different, of course.
I would think so, but that question just hit me as we were talking. One of the things that I think we as citizens can do to make an impact is to write our representatives.
Absolutely.
And there are some laws or some bills, I guess they are at this point, in the legislature right now that are reducing the funding for victims of crime. And do you know anything about any of those?
Not specifically. I do know a lot of our positions are grant funded, and without our positions, we don't have the manpower to assist the victims here in our community. So we've seen cuts, federal grants that have been cut, and that affects us. It leaves us short staffed and limits our resources.
I was reading last night, and I think the number was like $117 million worth of victim support is going to be eliminated if these bills become laws.
Wow.
And just thinking about that, I have chills. But one of the things that I'd like to share with you and our viewers is that the General Federation of Women's Clubs, as we know it, GFWC, has a scholarship. And this scholarship is called Success for Survivors. And this scholarship is designed to make it possible for victims to reshape their lives and become survivors.
Awesome.
Like you were talking about, it looks totally different for somebody that's going down the path to become a survivor as opposed to somebody who is still in that victim role.
Absolutely.
But the GFWC, what we call our signature project, which means that that's a project that we focus on for the whole organization, is domestic violence. And the goal is to bring awareness of and help to prevent the widespread occurrence of violence against mostly women and then, of course, children in the nation. But we this was done many, many years ago when they selected this as our signature project. And so as times have changed, we have incorporated other genders. But I'm going to go back to the slide on, whoops, I went the wrong direction. There we go. The slide on success for survivors, because there are some requirements that, and I'd like to share this with you so that you'll know about it, because you may have
Certainly.
someone in your program that could use it. But they have to be in post-secondary study. So they have to have their GED or their high school diploma and be in either a vocational institution or a post-secondary, so UNC Charlotte, UNC Greensboro, would be close by examples. So they have to be in post-secondary, and they have to be a survivor of partner violence.
Okay.
That was part of one of the requirements that they instituted many years ago, was partner violence. They have to be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident of the United States. And then, as I mentioned, the enrolled or planning to enroll. So if they've started the process, but they haven't gotten there yet, then they can apply for this scholarship. And they have to be recommended by a domestic violence agency.
Okay.
Or a counselor or a therapist that works with domestic violence.
Okay.
And there is an application on gfwc.org, which I think is on my next slide. Well, the process for applying is to find the application on gfwc.org. And then once you fill out the application, then you send it sorry guys, there we go. So this is how you can send your information, is you can use snail mail, as I call it, which is Success for Survivors at 1734 N Street Northwest, Washington, D.C. That's not NC, it should be D.C. I didn't catch that, so make sure you get that right, because there is a Washington, North Carolina, but it should be D.C. 20036-2990. But the easiest thing to do is to email it to programs@gfwc.org and include in the subject line scholarship. If you have any questions, or if your potential candidate has any questions, the number is up there, is 202-347-3168. And again, you can also email, and in the subject line, I would make sure that they put scholarship questions.
Okay.
So that the person that's getting the email doesn't think that it's an actual application.
Right.
So that's how you apply. There is a timeline. They opened it up October the 13th, so it is now open to apply. And you can apply through February 10th. It has to be postmarked or email time-stamped by 11:59 on the 10th of February of 2024. And then they'll let the recipients know between May and June sometime, and then the money will be distributed in July. So that's the time frame. So if you have someone in mind that is working really hard to get his or her life together, or to make changes or whatever, we would love to have you submit an applicant. and I will be happy to help you find get the application, because it's a little complicated to navigate our website sometimes, because this is the national website that is where you would find it.
I'll definitely give that some thought. It sounds like an awesome opportunity.
It is an incredible opportunity. The thing I didn't mention is that it is a $2,500 scholarship.
Oh, wow.
So that would help someone go a long way in getting started or moving further along in their process. And before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask if there was anything else you wanted to add. Particularly, I understand that My Sister's House has a hotline.
We do. We have a 24-hour crisis line. That number is 704-872-3403. If you or anyone you know would be in need of our assistance, even if they just need to talk, if they have questions, there will always be an available advocate to answer those calls.
Can you repeat that number one more time?
It's 704-872-3403.
Thank you. Thank you, Emily, for taking your time and being with us on this Federation Focus. And we look forward to having more communication with you and working on that relationship with the Women's Club and just seeing what we can do to help you. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
You've been listening to A Servant's Heart, sponsored by the Statesville Women's Club. We are located at 515 West End Avenue, Statesville. To contact us, you can email us at statesvillewomansclub@gmail.com or call 704-761-8208. Our website is statesvillewomansclub.org. Remember, that's Statesville Women's Club with an A.org.